What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Gage. Welcome to the channel. Today I am excited to bring you my Rebecca deck profile from the One Piece trading card game. This has been a very enjoyable control deck. It is a leader that has a lot of potential because of the fact that it has a lot of support cards and the fact that it is a blue-black leader, which gains access to cards from both the black and blue card pool. It has a very interesting leader effect that, when piloted correctly, allows you to take games. So I'm going to show off the reason why I think that this deck actually has a lot of potential. And yeah, before I hop right into it, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you are fans of content like this. And let's just hop right into the profile. So to kick things off, of course, we have to discuss the leader herself, Rebecca, an absolutely gorgeous custom. Shout out to Davidson TCG, makes some of the best custom cards in the market. And yeah, so this is a 5,000 power leader. It is blue and black with 5 life. And immediately you'll see that this leader cannot attack. So normally that is something that is a detriment because one of the things that makes leaders so powerful is the ability to have free swings every single turn. However, its ability more than makes up for that. It has the activate main once per turn. You can pay a Don, and if you have 6 or less cards in your hand, look at the top 2 cards of the deck, add a Dressrosa type card, which most of the deck is, and then you trash the rest. This is obviously good for being able to gain additional cards almost every single turn, as well as setting up your trash, because there are cards in the deck that do require for you to have cards in your trash in order to get their effects or to gain bonus effects. So yeah, the Rebecca leader is very, very powerful. And yeah, the blue-black combination is just a very busted combination because of the cards that it has at its disposal. And I'll show you why in the deck profile. So, of course, we are playing 4 copies of the Rebecca Searcher. It is a 1-cost searcher that lets you look at the top 3 cards of the deck. You can reveal a Dressrosa type card from among them and then trash the rest. So, similarly to the leader, it allows you to get access to your cards, set up your trash, and is very cheap at being 1 cost. Worst case, it can be used as a 1,000 counter. I'm also playing 3 copies of Ideo. This is a 2-cost 2,000 power character with blocker, so this deck is a lot slower and does require some setup, so you really don't want your opponent to be able to just get free swings at your life every single turn, and Ideo is an ideal card for being able to stop your opponent from just getting free large swings in every single turn. And then for the star of the show, it's 4 copies of Chyros. So this is really just going to end up being the leader that attacks every single turn for you because it is a 3-cost 5,000 power that has the ability where if it would be KO'd, you can rest your leader or a RKUDO Coliseum, which is the stage for the deck, rest it instead. So it has built-in protection, meaning that your opponent is really going to be inclined to just ignore him because that would mean that they would just be wasting an attack every single turn. So that is why he essentially becomes the pseudo leader for the deck. It does have another ability where if your leader is Rebecca, which it is, you would KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 1 or less, and then trash 1 card from the top of your deck. This is obviously very good at being able to kill weak things, but when comboed with other cards in the deck, like Orlumbus, which I'll show off in a bit, it means that you are going to be able to KO your opponent's more powerful costed things. And of course, the trashing a card from the top of the deck means that you are setting up your discard pile as well. So you definitely have to play 4 copies of Chyros if you are playing Rebecca. I'm also playing 4 copies of Bartalo. He is a 3-cost 3,000 power who is a blocker. Most of the time, you're really just going to be keeping him in the hand as a 2k counter. However, in a pinch, if you really do need access to just a cheap blocker, you can go ahead and put him out. But I do recommend just playing 4 copies of him because he is a Dressrosa type, so he is easily searchable, and just a solid 2k counter all around. Speaking of 2k counters, I am playing 4 copies of Tashigi. This one is pretty good. It has multiple utilities. It is a 2,000 counter, 3-cost 4,000 power character, and it has the activate main. You can rest this character to give one of your opponent's characters -2 cost during the turn, which essentially softens up your opponent's characters to make it so that your Chyros and even your Terreno Bastardo, which is one of the event cards that we are playing, it just makes it easier for those cards to KO your opponent's things. Unfortunately, it is not searchable because it is Navy and not Dressrosa, but it is just very good at being able to help facilitate what the deck is trying to do. I am also playing 4 copies of Orlumbus. As I mentioned earlier, this is just a really good support card for Chyros. It is a 4-cost 5,000 power character that has the activate main to give one of your opponent's characters -4 cost during this turn, and then you trash the top 2 cards of your deck, and you have to KO one of your Dressrosa type characters. So that last part where you have to KO one of your Dressrosa type characters honestly is not as big of an issue as it might seem, because a lot of the times you're going to be playing weak stuff like your Rebekahs anyway, so you don't mind KOing this. However, if you already have, for example, your Chyros in play, because it has the protection effect, it means that you can then use Orlumbus, get the ability of -4 to your opponent's character, and just protect you, target your Chyros as the thing that would be destroyed, but then protect it with its protection ability, meaning that you're getting that -4 cost essentially for free. So Orlumbus is very, very good for the deck. It's a Dressrosa type character, and of course, if it continues to stick, you are going to be able to -4 to your opponent's characters every single turn, putting pressure for your opponent to remove this as fast as possible, meaning that they are not going for your life. They are going to be trying to take out Orlumbus, and yeah, I love the fact that he does put as much pressure as he does, and that is why you kind of have to play 4 copies. Additionally, I am playing 3 copies of RKUDO III. He is a 4-cost 5,000 power character that is a blocker, and on play, he can give up to one of your Dressrosa type characters 2,000 power during the turn, and it also does it on KO. So this is just a really solid card all around. It can usually end up being another attacker if you need it to be, and just a really solid blocker. It means that your opponent always has to take into account that if they are trying to take out multiple characters, when he dies, he's just going to end up buffing one of your other characters instead, which may end up messing up your opponent's math. So honestly, he is one of the newer support cards for the deck, and I have been enjoying playing him at 3 copies and would encourage you to try him out. I am also playing 3 copies of Rebekah, who is just a fantastic card. Obviously, she's being abused in cards like in decks like Sakazuki right now, but this is the deck that she was made for. She's a Dressrosa type character, meaning that she is searchable, she's a blocker, and she is able to add a black character with a cost of 3 to 7, other than Rebekah, from the trash to your hand, and then you could play a black character card with a cost of 3 or less from your hand rested. So pretty much most of the cards that I've shown up until this point, she is able to either add back from the discard pile, or she is going to be able to add back to your hand. So it is just very, very good recursion. Obviously, in any card game, having the ability to add cards back to your hand and then play them for free is going to be really, really good. And that is why I do play her at 3 copies. I am also playing Mancherry, which is able to add back Rebekah, which is why I am not playing her at 4, but I can see an argument if you do want to be able to bump her up. But the deck is already consistent enough, and you don't necessarily have to go for this play every single turn. And I'm also playing 4 copies of Sabo. It is a 5-cost 6,000 power character with blocker that on play, none of your characters can be KO'd by effects until the start of your next turn, and then you draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards. So this is very, very powerful. Obviously, it's also being teched in Sakazuki, but this is the deck that it was made for. It means that your opponent wouldn't be able to do things like hit your characters with a jet pistol, because it is going to be protected for the turn after the Sabo is played. And then, of course, it has the bonus effect of drawing 2 cards and then trashing 2 cards from your hand, cycling through cards that you may or may not need in your hand to see some of the pieces to help you establish your board. So Sabo is a very, very solid blocker and is pretty much a staple in the deck. You have to play 4 copies. And as I alluded to earlier, I am playing 3 copies of Mancherry. So it's a 1-cost 0 power character that activate main. You can pay a Don, rest this character, place 2 cards from the trash at the bottom of the deck, to then add a black character card with a cost of 3 to 5 from the trash to your hand. Again, it is very similar in that it has the recursion that Rebekah provides, and and is just very solid. I like it because this deck is constantly sending cards to the trash. So Mancherry is very good because your opponent is going to want to get rid of this because they don't want you just freely adding cards from the trash to your hand every single turn. So it acts as a pseudo blocker in that sense as well. Worst case, it could be a 1000 counter, but because of the fact that the deck is sending so many cards to the trash, you really want to be able to utilize its effect as much as possible. It is a control deck, so being able to grind your opponent out and have access to your cards is key to being able to take the game. And for the last character, but certainly not least, I'm playing 3 copies of Monkey D. Luffy, the man himself. He is a 7-cost, 7,000 power character that can also attack active characters, and then has the activate main once per turn, return 7 cards from the trash to the bottom of the deck in any order to set him back as active. Unfortunately, if you do choose to do that, though, it will then not be able to become active if you choose to until essentially the end of the following turn because of the fact that he will be frozen. So what this means is you're really able to pressure opponents' characters because they're not safe even if they are standing up. With the RKUDO Coliseum in play, which I'll go over in just a moment, it means that you are then going to be able to attack your opponent's standing characters the turn he is played. So he does get pseudo rush with the RKUDO Coliseum, and if you choose to, you can stand him back up and then swing a second time. So he is very, very powerful. I don't want to play more than 3 copies because he can be bricky. He doesn't have any counter power, right? So it's really just something that you want to go for in the end game, and that is why I do play 3 copies of him. All right, and that's it for the characters. For the stages I'm playing, as I mentioned, I am playing 3 copies of RKUDO Coliseum. This makes it so that as long as your leader has the Dressrosa type, which Rebecca does, your Dressrosa type characters can attack characters the turn they are played. So this is going to make it so that your Orlumbuses of the deck, your Sabos of the deck are going to be aggressive because they can attack your opponent's rested characters the turn they are played. And as I mentioned earlier, the Luffy is a character that you would then be able to attack the turn it's played as well, and also attack into your opponent's active characters. So the RKUDO Coliseum is the lifeblood of the deck. Obviously, it is a brick, but you do want to see it as much as early as possible, which is why I'm playing the 3 copies. And it's one of those things where even if you do have another copy in your hand, it'll just end up being discard fodder for something like Sabo later down the line, so it really isn't that big of a deal. As for the events, as I mentioned earlier, I am playing 4 copies of Tyranno Bastardo. In my opinion, just incredible because of the fact that you could choose one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 4 or less and straight up kill it. If you have Orlumbus in play, that means you're killing something and you're able to use the Orlumbus main effect. You are then able to kill something with a cost of 8 or less. It's just a very powerful card. If you have 15 or more cards in your trash, which obviously is going to be very easy for this deck to accomplish, you could choose one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 6 or less instead to kill. So that just means that in combination with Orlumbus, you're KOing pretty much any of your opponent's characters. It also has a decent trigger effect where you can rest your leader to KO up to one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. So I like having access to essentially like security bombs in my life, meaning that if my opponent attacks into it, they are going to potentially lose one of their own characters. So they always have to be wary about attacking into me. And of course, it's a Dressrosa type card, meaning that it is searchable. And then last but not least, we are playing a blue-black deck, and one of the only blue cards we are taking advantage of is the absolutely busted Hound Blade that's currently being played in Sakazuki. It has the main effect to give one of your leader or character cards plus 3,000 during the turn. Obviously, giving it to the leader doesn't matter here because the leader can't attack, but this does make it so that you are going to be able to swing for larger numbers with your Chyros. However, it then gives you the ability to place a character with a cost of 2 or less to the bottom of the owner's deck, which in combination with the Orlumbus to give something -4 means that this deck is just as much of a menace in this deck as it is in Sakazuki. And then, of course, it has the trigger to return a character card with a cost of 3 or less to the owner's hand. So in a pinch, if your opponent does attack into this and say you do need to be able to use its trigger effect to help you survive or remove one of their weaker blockers, it can do so. But you really do just want to have this card in your hand to take advantage of its absolutely busted main effect. So guys, that is going to be it for the deck profile. Thank you so much for sticking around. Let me know if you play this deck. What are some of the cards that you choose to play in it? What are some of the ratios that you play? I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have any questions about the deck, feel free to leave those questions in the comment section below. And until next time, take care.